I'm your host, Mattiyahu, and this is Axis and Allies Strategy and Tactics. Hello, all, and welcome to Axis and Allies Principles of War. Today we'll be covering mass as our principle. I think this is a good one, very important one to the game. You always want to make sure that you bring an overwhelming majority whenever possible. You know, entering into 50-50 battles carries some serious risk to it, and we'll kind of go over the risk that's involved with entering into closer battles, as well as how to overwhelm the enemy and what the good outcomes of that are. With that, just talk about a little bit the setup we've got here. So we've got the Americans. This is kind of their, starting force that the Americans start with, and parts of the Japanese Navy. So we've got a pretty even fight here. Quick little aside. So a lot of people like to attack 53 here on their first Japanese turn, and they might say, "Oh, I'm attacking Pearl Harbor." Just to note, the game does start in 1942, so that's after Pearl Harbor happened. And so what happens is in the real war, the forces that started in 53, the Americans, and the Japanese forces that started in Caroline Island there, meet for battle right about here between New Guinea and the Solomons in the Battle of the Coral Sea. And it was a pretty important battle. It was actually the first time that two navies fought a battle without being able to see each other. They were several hundred miles apart, and it was conducted entirely through air power. Both sides had aircraft carriers and used their bombers and torpedo bombers to attack one another. It ended in a draw. The Americans lost the carrier Lexington, and the Japanese lost a light carrier and had two of their heavy battle carriers damaged pretty seriously and had to spend several months in repairs. It was important because the Japanese, that was their kind of preceding force, their naval force that was coming to clear the way for an invasion of Australia. And if they had been able to defeat the Americans there, then they would have gone ahead and invaded Australia. So with that, kind of jump right into the battle here. Go over the lineup of who we've got at the table before we start here. So the Japanese have an aircraft carrier attacking at 1. They've got the sub and 2 destroyers attacking at 2. As you can see, they're kind of even there. The 1s versus the 1s, the 2s versus the 2s. The Japanese have 3 3s and 2 4s. And then the Americans have those 3 4s. So really it's kind of the even, except for the 1 extra 4 here against the 3 3s over here for the Japanese. So I would say, certainly a slight edge for the Japanese in this battle. But we'll see how the outcome comes out, and we'll run it a couple of times, the same exact battle, just to get a feel for what are the possible outcomes for a more 50-50 battle like this. And do you really want to enter into a fight like that? Are you willing to accept the risk? With that, we'll get going. We got here the carrier. Lucky start, good hit, good for the Japanese. And the 2s, 1 out of 3, perfect, right on average. And how do our 3s do? No joy from the 3s this roll. And 4s, sort of doing their job, 1 out of 2. See what the Americans can get here. Nothing for the sub. The 2s, always a big roll. Nothing out of their 2s. That hurts them bad. And their 4s, 2 hits. And we'll take the battleship and the sub. Excellent. And we'll push it on. Let's see here. Not lucky twice for the carrier. The 2s. 2 good hits. Good job, destroyers. The 3s have been underperforming this battle. That's why you bring enough, and returning fire. Nothing out of the 2s. And the 4s get 2 more. Looks like Japanese are going to be able to clean this up pretty easy now. Will the carrier do it? So this is a, you would expect an outcome like this. The 3 is just awful. You would expect an outcome like this for this kind of battle, right? This, you think you bring a slight advantage. Maybe it's a 50-50, but needles to you. You expect to win and have some pieces left over. 34 to 83. It's a pretty good IPC win. So all in all, a pretty good battle for the Japanese. But we'll see that that's not necessarily always the case when it comes to a 50-50 battle. That's why it is that way. But overall, this was a good, strong outcome for the Japanese. And here we go. We'll roll it again. So this time we'll see what kind of result we get. And hit out of the carrier. Another good start for the Japanese. And 3 misses with their 2s. Not so lucky. It's still a good start. The 3s. 2 hits. And now the 4s. 1 more hit. So strong start from the Japanese, but we'll see what happens with the Americans this time. Rolling for that sub. And a miss. Now the 3 2s and 3 hits. Fickle 2s. Fickle 2s. Sometimes they bail you out, and sometimes they burn you. All right, excellent. Oh shoot, forgot the battleship. So we'll tip the battleship. Always tip your battleships first. Pro tip: don't be foolish and take this up first. All right, so great hits for the Americans, as you can see. Like I said, with 50-50 battles, now it's a little tighter. Japanese still have the edge, so we'll come again. A miss this time out of the carrier. And for the 3s, oof, 2 more misses. Now the 4s, big money makers. Oh, and that's just what you hate to see. I think there is kind of a bias towards believing 4s always hit. Oh, and there it is, 3 hits out of their 4s. And take the fighter and carrier. We'll roll it again as well, just to see what we can knock out here from the Americans. No sense retreating, just to have our battleship destroyed next round. But yeah, this is how things can get out of hand. And as we'll talk about in a minute, the need for bringing mass. Let's see if they finish it off here. And yeah, it's all over. So yeah, we'll take a look at the IPCs here just to get a picture of it. So minus 100 for the Japanese. Just absolutely, you don't want to see that in any of your attacks. And you need to know that is the real risk that you're taking on when you enter a 50-50 battle. That first one we saw went exceedingly well for the Japanese, and here just a rout in the other direction. Here we have our last example. This one is going to be a mass attack. Instead of entering into one of those 50-50 battles that we kind of described earlier, this time we're going to bring overwhelming force to the table. You'll see we've got the same American Navy that we've been fighting against, but this time we have the full power of the Japanese Navy and Air Force, and they're going to get after it. So here we go with the carriers, hit off the start. And the 2's a miss, but it doesn't even matter. You've brought so much weight that you can afford for your 2's to not even hit. Yeah, right there, the 3's nearly taking everyone out, and you still have 3 4's to finish the job. this is exactly the kind of scenario that you want to see, where you overwhelm the enemy in all one go. They only get their luck of the die try, because really now it's just, they would need, even if they get straight hits across the board, they're not going to knock you out. And if the dice don't go well for them, if they don't get a hit, it's devastating. This is how you really rack up the advantage. Knock out a pretty sizable enemy force in one blow, and now they just have the luck of the die to try and carry the day for them. So with that, we'll roll their 2s and see what they have. And it's a goose egg. That's exactly the kind of thing that can happen. 2s are fickle. Sometimes they're with you, sometimes they're not. They still sneak 3 hits out of their 4s. This time I'll remember to take the battleships first. No more mistakes there like that. But yeah, this is exactly the kind of overwhelming outcome you want to see. This is how you can win the game. We talked about in that first video an objective: destroy the enemy. You want to make sure that your battles, you're winning in an overwhelming fashion. This is how you do it. Make sure to bring so much that they never have a chance. And in summary, on this principle of mass, make sure to remember, always bring overwhelming force. If you see a medium-sized army or navy and you have a large one you can bring, go and crush it. And also know the risks that you are taking on if you are entering into a more 50-50 battle, and just how they can go poorly against you, and kind of weigh that against the situation that you're in. Sometimes you'll need to take a bit more risk, but just be aware of the risk that you are entering into with each battle, and as much as possible try and bring mass, try and bring overwhelming force, and it will lead you to victory. With that, thank you very much. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you soon.